Welcome to the Connected Leaders Academy virtual conference designed to reshape your vision of transformation. As we navigate the evolving business landscape, our speakers will unveil innovative strategies to manage and initiate change. Prepare to adapt, innovate, and lead, ensuring your role in this transformative era.
Hey, this is DanielPAndrews. I'm super excited to be here. Quick apology for the less than stellar studio setup. I had to spend some time with family at the last minute due to some emergencies, so I'm working in a basement studio, but we've got what we've got, and I'm excited to be sharing some information with y'all today. The first thing I want to say is that I am not used to doing all the talking. I believe very firmly in interactive environments, but I understand why that's not accessible to us today. So I would like to encourage you to jot down questions that you have, whether you're watching this live, later on today, on a restream, weeks or months from now. Any questions that I generate in your mind, you can email them to me at Daniel P, which stands for Patrick, DanielPAndrews at Outlook.com. DanielPAndrews at Outlook.com. And I'll be happy to point you to resources to answer those questions if it's going to take more than just a few seconds to answer them. So anyway, I'm excited to be here and to be sharing some of this information. I can see the chat box, so maybe there's a bit of interactivity available through chat. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Nikki, I appreciate your comment just now. What I want to share with you, right, is the concepts that are very important in making a shift from what most people refer to as networking. This morning in the intro, I don't know if you watched it, the opening sessions, Jose referenced that my theme is stop networking and start building relationships that matter, which I stole from the subtitle of a book. The book is called Super Connector by Scott Gerber. There's another book that emphasizes the same point. It's called Networking Isn't Working. And what they mean is networking isn't working. So I want to share from the jump what I firmly have come to believe from experience, meaning I don't have opinions, I have positions based on data. What networking isn't, what most people call networking, shows up in a couple of categories that are not very effective. And one of those is what I call speed prospecting. We go through time and space trying to judge whether or not someone is a prospect of what we have to offer. That's the first and usually the only dimension by which we judge or assess other people. And that's not very effective in a lot of ways, partly because people can feel it, partly because nobody is a prospect until they say they are. They may look like a prospect, they may sound like a prospect, they may smell like a prospect, but no one is a prospect until they say they are. So, which is why I talk about in the work that I do, being introduced to ideal client profiles. But no one is a prospect until they say they are. And my best analogy of this situation is when we go to the mall to buy something and we come through the door and the clerk says, "Can I help you?" Male and female alike, what's the first words out of her mouth? "I'm just looking." We declare that we're not a prospect, even though we are. We're there to buy something. Usually, men, almost always. We don't browse typically. And when we go to the clerk in a few minutes and say, "Is this going on sale? Is there a better offer? Do you have these in other sizes? Maybe another color in the back?" We do not even apologize for the fact that we misled her, because we didn't mislead her, him or her, the clerk, when we said, "I'm just looking," because it's understood to mean I'm not a prospect until I say I am. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So speed prospecting is a one-dimensional way, very superficial way of interacting with other people. I'm not saying you can't identify ideal client profiles as you talk to people, but if that's the only way you're interacting with them, it's going to be, it's going to be and feel like a very shallow conversation. The second is what I call marketing by hand. And some people don't really make a distinction. I study this all day, every day, so I do have a distinction to make. They're first cousins. They're not the same name, but they're first cousins. And speed prospecting is speaking to people, right? Again, only in the context of, are you ever going to buy my thing? And marketing by hand looks a lot like it. Here's my card. If you ever need me, better yet, here's 2 cards in case you ever meet somebody that needs me. I don't know you well enough to refer you. I'm not saying I won't ever, but I won't now, because I don't know if I'm willing to put my reputation on the line and send a referral until I know you're going to do good work, right? Most people, and I call it marketing by hand, because all they're doing is increasing awareness, and they would have been better off in the context of a live event to literally go to the parking lot and slide a business card or a flyer under every windshield wiper and go home. It would be faster. It would be cheaper than buying your apps or alcohol, if you have to buy some of the happy hour, and it would certainly save a lot of time, right? I already said that, faster. It would save you a lot of calories. For somebody who gets paid to go to cocktail parties, that's tough on the waistline. Okay, that's tough on the waistline. In digital events, you see this because people will spam the chat box with their contact info and a brief outline of what they do and their LinkedIn profile, sometimes not even when they're speaking. Meaning, if you're given an option, a rotation to introduce yourself in a digital networking event, that is when I would put my information in the box. Other people will do it repeatedly. They'll do it at the beginning, the middle, and the end. I don't. I'm choosing who I want to interact with. I will DM people and go, most people in this room won't get my link, but I saw your conversation and I thought I should invite you onto my calendar. So networking, what people call networking, they practice in the form of speed prospecting or marketing by hand. What should it be about? Making a brief but authentic connection to figure out if you two can be in service to each other in the future. Earl Flormata, spelled the way you think it would be, you can find him on LinkedIn, has got a lot of good content. He taught me that the $5 question is, will you buy my thing? That's speed prospecting, right? The $50 question is, who do you know that would be willing to buy my thing? That's marketing by hand. Will you refer me? The $500 question is, who do you know that would know a lot of people that would buy my thing? And that distinction is what I call a key referral partner. We'll come back to that as we go. But you're not looking for a prospect. You shouldn't be. That's a low stakes value proposition. You can. Some of them will be there. That's fine. But if that's your hunt, you're only asking a $5 question. If you ask them to refer you, which they normally won't if they have any integrity after just meeting you, you're only asking the $50 question. But the $500 question is, who do you know, key phrase, that would know a lot of people that would buy my thing? Okay, we'll come back to the key referral partner concept in a little bit. All right. Okay, so that's what networking, what most people call networking is what they do, but that's not truly relationship building. All right. In the phrase, people do business with folks they know, like, and trust. Almost everybody I've ever spoken to does not know what the most important word in that sentence is. The most important word in that sentence is the word business. Because if your sole focus is on know, like, and trust, then what you don't get, you're not building the professional relationship side of it as rapidly as you could and you should. And you're screening for, I just have to make sure I'm on schedule here. What you find yourself screening for is whether or not they'd be good at your cocktail party. Ask yourself this question. Are there people that have been to your home for Sunday dinner, Sabbath meal, the cookout, the tailgate, game night, that you wouldn't actually hire or refer. I know some people that are very lovely people socially, but I don't have confidence in the way they do their business. I asked one guy that question, and he looked at the screen for a long time, and he said, "Are we starting a list?" I said, "It's a yes or no question. It's a yes or no question." Just because someone fits your definition of know, like, and trust doesn't mean they're professionally fall into those categories. Okay. So your quest ought to be to determine who belongs in your professional circle. There are people that are very good at their job that I will refer that I wouldn't hang out with because they're good at their job, but either our politics don't mesh or our styles don't mesh. The chemistry's just not there. I know for a fact that I'm that way with a number of other people. I don't have chemistry with everybody I meet. I do not have chemistry with everybody that I meet because I believe in being authentic. Trust is the function. Trust is what we're trying to build. Trust is the only thing of value that's passed from person to person. We sometimes think that we want the name of a prospect, or since no one's a prospect until they say they are, we want the name of an ideal client profile, a potential prospect, the definition of a target market. You can meet hundreds of people in hundreds of places easily. What you really want, the reason a network exists and the function that makes it functional, is the trust that's passed from person to person. The trust that's passed from person to person. Because if I don't believe in you, and it doesn't mean I disbelieve you, it means that I haven't built belief in you. If I don't know that your style is similar to mine, or that your priorities are similar to mine, or that you know what a good introduction looks like for me, and you introduce me to someone else, that's not going to inspire a lot of confidence in my case. Suzanne Taylor King is part of CLA, has this experience. She created an introduction for me. And it said, Daniel, Reuben, y'all both do big things. Do big things together. And I replied, I know better than to argue with STK, LOL. Here's my calendar link. And Reuben replied, I know better than to argue with STK. I booked, LOL. It's not the brevity of the introduction that made it work. It's the fact that both Reuben and I trusted Suzanne Taylor King to know and understand what a good introduction looked like for us. I'll be vague on who does it, but there's someone else in my world that creates a lot of introductions that are just as short. Daniel, Fred, I'm pleased to make this introduction. I hope you find it profitable. Short, not nearly as meaningful, and here's why. People get on my calendar occasionally. They show up and they say things like, how do you know this guy? Or they'll say, what's your experience with the introductions that he gives? Because he doesn't know me or the other person well enough for either one of us to feel highly confident that every introduction he makes is valuable for us. Which means when they get on my calendar, they're distrustful of me. I don't want to say distrustful. They're untrusting of me to the same degree that they don't trust the man that made the introduction. I'll use his initials, JC, just so we've got a name to call him. When JC recommends that they talk to me, their experience of introductions that JC has made for them in the past doesn't create a lot of confidence when they get on my calendar. And that's a battle that I have to fight if I choose to get people on my calendar at all from those introductions. So what you're looking for is to build the trust so that other people can enthusiastically endorse you. Using Suzanne Taylor King again as an example. I was in a room one time, a digital room. We were asked to share challenges in our business, what resources we might need help with, which is, by the way, a great network building tool, trust building tool to allow people to be authentic and talk about what needs they have. And one person said something, and three of us in the room said, oh, you need to talk to Suzanne Taylor King. She can coach you and solve that problem for you. Now, this person probably knew in the room, if I recall correctly, did not know me, Mike Pfister, and whoever the third person was. I can't remember who it was. But does it make sense that the number of voices that said her name carried a little bit of weight? Right? So the multiplicity of names in that case carried a lot of weight. So when they finally reach Suzanne Taylor King, they're inclined to believe that lots of people believe she's capable of doing the job. But that only works because DanielPAndrews, Mike Pfister, and whoever the third person were are all the sort of people that are willing to speak Suzanne's name when she's not in the room. Okay? Your goal is to build trust so that you can then borrow the trust other people have in them. You want to leverage or utilize. Think of it like a baton in a relay race. We just came out of the Olympics, depending on when you're watching this. This is going down in the fall of 2024, so the Summer Olympics. Track and field, as always, was a big event. The Americans showed well. The first runner comes around the track, and at the moment of handoff, the second runner is already running. They don't look back. They reach back, but they don't look back. The baton you need to think of as the trust that's being passed from person to person to person. So if you have credibility with the person that you want to introduce you to someone, and that person has credibility with the person they're introducing you to, you're going to show up in their world with implied credibility. You can still lose it. And it may be easier to lose if they've only known you from the introduction. But it's your baton to drop at that point. Trust has several components. Credibility is one, reliability is one, likability is one. None of those require a customer relationship. If you think the only people that can legitimately refer you are past clients or customers, you're very sadly mistaken. Credibility, reliability, likability do not require a customer relationship to develop. Trust, which is made up of credibility, reliability, and likability, can be diluted by apparent self-interest. I do not have time for the soapbox today. Email me and ask me for a link to several podcasts where I have preached this message, but the end result of the fact that apparent self-interest dilutes the message is that finder's fees work against you. They damage your relationship and they damage the quality of the introductions that you get. Don't have time to prove it. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. I can prove it with both micro and macro data, but we're not going to have time for that. So trust is built of credibility plus reliability plus likability. Try to keep apparent self-interest completely out of the picture. Here's another interesting concept. It doesn't take long to build trust, to discover if someone else is trustworthy and for them to uncover your trustworthiness. One of the ways that is sped up is by getting referred onto your calendar to start with. Meaning if you're starting with credibility with the person that's landed on your calendar and in the meeting with you, you're piggybacking on the trust that Richard Lewine, for example, has already built. Richard offered me a couple of introductions. He said, here's 2 profiles. Do they look like ideal client profiles to you? I said, yes. He said, great. Here's your email addresses. Tell them I said to email them. And I said, oh no, Richard, I'm only interested in an introduction, a 3-way thread. I don't care if it's email, LinkedIn, text, Facebook Messenger. I want the implied credibility of whatever trust Richard has built with them. It doesn't take long in general, but it's even quicker when you start from a threshold, a platform, a foundation, of the trust that was built with the Richard Wines and the Suzanne Taylor Kings and the Mike Pfisters and the Jennifer Fries of the world and the Jose Escobars of the world. Okay. It does not have to take a long time. If you get people onto your calendar through an introduction and you use those first 20 to 25 minutes correctly, you should be getting high value or low value. And I don't mean worthless, but just a lower stakes, high stakes and low stakes introductions by the end of your first 20 to 25 minute meeting. And by the end of a second meeting, 20, 30, 45 minutes, you should be getting high value introductions. It doesn't take long. It's absolutely amazing. Okay. It is true that we need to be prepared to give. Eliminating the speed prospecting model, right? Eliminating the marketing by hand model. We need to be prepared to both give and receive when we're in other conversations, whether we're in a room full of people or one-on-one. We need to be prepared to give and receive. I call it a spirit of mutuality. I will share and support you in whatever way I can. Maybe I can't, but because I showed up with the right spirit, if you can support me too, or maybe even support me more than I can support you, I can receive that. Okay. There's a really great book, thank you very much, called, I said thank you very much because somebody told me 3 minutes to end. Okay. There's a really great book called Give and Take by Adam Grant. And in the first chapter, he points out that you can look at people's network building styles, givers, takers, and matchers. I think you got a rough idea of what I'm saying. You can also look at people's lifetime of success. And in the highest levels of long-term career success, you're more likely to find givers, meaning there are more givers in that space than takers and matchers. At the lowest levels of career success, you will find more givers than takers and matchers. You have to be strategic about where you give. I've got several things I'd like to share, won't have time to share them. I will share this. If you're going to be strategic about who you build with, if you're going to select who you want to build with, that does not imply transactionality. If your message is worth amplifying, if you believe that you do good in the world, and I hope you do, if you don't believe that, either do it differently or do something different. If your message is worth amplifying, if you do good in the world, if people are served and better off for having interacted with you, bought your thing, hired you for your services, and other people have messages that are worth amplifying too, you absolutely owe it yourself to be strategic in finding key referral partners. That does not imply transactionality at all. Somebody asked me about that. And I said, here's the explanation. We're going to spend this much time on the planet alive, this much time on the planet awake, this much time on the planet at work. These are approximations. And this much time on the planet dealing with other people. If your message is worth amplifying, if you do good in the world, you owe it to your message and the other people's message to hang out with people that are positioned to amplify your message more than others, and whose message you're positioned to amplify as well. That is the definition of a key referral partner. Okay. And when I say your message, you owe it to your message, what I'm really saying is you owe it to the people that you hope to serve. Because if you choose to spend time in a lot of low value, low stakes conversations, you're actively choosing to serve fewer people. You're actively choosing to dilute and disempower your own message and the people that you hope to serve. DanielPAndrews at Outlook.com. Hopefully this created a ton of questions. Yeah, I don't even know where to go from here, guys. I could talk for 10 hours, but then I have to send you a really large bill. All I have to say is this. There's more where that came from.
Thank you for participating in today's enlightening session. As we transition to our next expert, remember that each strategy and insight is a step toward becoming a transformative leader in your field. Visit connectedleadersacademy.com to stay engaged and informed. The journey of change is ongoing. Let's move forward together.